I am a risky person. I do these big things, $700 million in debt right now, something like that. The only way to save the real estate deals are if I can build and sell one of my other companies for $50 million or more. When you have a large personal brand, it's like you're a really, really hot girl. When you argue for your limitations, you win every time. When you're playing Monopoly and you're down to your final $100, that's when you play your best game of Monopoly.
That was Brandon Turner, billion-dollar real estate portfolio, former host of the BiggerPockets podcast. And today, he's got 3 years to build and sell a company for $50 million, or he's going to lose $100 million of investor capital. There's a lot on the line. We unpack it all, and we dig into it in this episode. Let's go. Brandon, long flight, but you're here, man.
I made it, man. It was, I left last night at 10 p.m., got in at 6 p.m. today. So that was almost, with time zones, it was a lot. It was great though.
You, because you reside in Hawaii.
I do live in Maui, yeah.
How long have you been there?
Oh man, I moved there when my daughter was 1. She's 9 now, so 8 years. Yeah, it was a trip. We went there just on vacation and never left. We're like, why would we leave? And so, we moved there.
I want to ask you about that because you have a lot of business here in the mainland of the U.S. How do you find managing that?
Yeah, it is both a blessing and a curse. The time zone thing is obviously annoying. I have obviously a lot of internet businesses and I have real estate stuff. My real estate company is based in Atlanta. And so that's a 6-hour time difference between most of the year. I'm in charge, so I set my own rules, right? So I do not work before 8 a.m. Well, that's, at half the year anyway, that's 2, 3 p.m. or, it's 2 p.m.
They're almost winding up their day.
Yeah, they're winding their day down, which is really hard for them. But here's the fascinating thing, and Tim Ferriss makes this point in the 4-Hour Work Week, is when people can't reach you, they solve their own problems. So it's actually very rare that I wake up in the morning and have a problem that people have been waiting for me all day. They just figure it out and they do it without me. And then by the time I get started, I get up and I'm doing some stuff, they're off work. And so now I get the entire day without interruption. So it's great in a lot of ways. And then sometimes I have to fly across the country on red eyes to come hang out at masterminds. So.
Let's talk about your businesses because you're playing at crazy levels on the real estate side. We had conversations before we started rolling that, there are moments when you question, why am I even doing like this business and that business, and even moments where you're questioning different deals that you've done and like how to work around those. So let me just start with, can you give people a sense of the kinds of businesses that you are running?
Sure.
Hey, Brandon's about to share some serious lessons about building under pressure. And if you're watching this somewhere where you can't take notes, in the car or on a run, don't worry about it because everything we're covering is in a free resource kit linked in the description. So just enjoy this conversation and then you can go back and grab the notes when you're ready.
I started in real estate originally, like just buying houses, duplexes, triplexes, stuff like that. And then I moved into the internet marketing kind of world, or I read 4-Hour Work Week. I started building a little community, a little blog, and I started the online thing. Then I joined a little company called BiggerPockets that blew up. We had a huge podcast for a decade. And then I used that brand, my personal brand, to then go back into real estate and start raising capital. So now I have a real estate company that we own about $1 billion of real estate. A little bit over, mostly multifamily and mobile home parks. So that business just runs. I've got a whole team of 100 plus employees over there. And then I focus a ton of effort on the personal brand side still. I'm not with BiggerPockets anymore. They sold to private equity and I'm not a go work for private equity kind of guy. So I left after that happened and I started several other different masterminds, communities. And I've tried and I've failed at some of them and I've done really well at some of them. And so I've got a number. I've got one for brand newbies called First Deal, just literally firstdeal.com. And then I got one for kind of a mid-level and I had a really high level one that was $50,000 a year. I just shut that down. And then a mortgage company in there and some other affiliate stuff.
Why do you do the personal brand stuff?
When you have a large personal brand, it's like you're a really, really hot girl. The girls that are just absolutely stunning, beautiful, like everyone opens doors for them and like they buy them drinks and everything's just easier for a hot girl. I am not a hot girl, but as soon as I have a personal brand, everything's easier. I didn't have a look. I don't have a catchphrase. I don't have Hormozi's thighs. Like I don't have like things or Dan Martell's hair. Like I just don't have anything. So I'm like, I'm going to grow a beard and that is going to be my identity. So I did it for a marketing purpose. And then I even changed my Instagram handle to Beardy Brandon. And then I started a coffee company called Beardy Brew. And like, it's all the personal brand because it gave people a handle. I mean, like half a dozen people came up to me like, Beardy Brandon. They never say Brandon Turner. It's Beardy Brandon. It's a handle they can grab on. So anyway, deliberate choice of branding, which is weird, and it works though.
I think it's amazing. And I think of, like, as you were saying that, I think of Jesse Cole, who's the founder of Savannah Bananas.
Yeah.
Always dressed in yellow.
He's
you
got
know,
that
like,
look.
yeah.
But imagine he was just a normal t-shirt and jeans, like
Yeah.
he wouldn't stand out. But he stands out because of that.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't, and like not everybody has to have that. You know, I think of like some guys like Hormozy has the look. I mean, you look at Hormozy and he just got that unique look. But you look at a guy like Graham Stephan, who's a YouTuber, podcaster, and he's just a normal looking guy. But Graham has like this intensity in his questions. So it's almost like a personality. And he's really, really good at that. His clips go viral all the time because of the way he talks.
Right.
You could probably say Grant Cardone's the same way, his personality. But it's like there's got to be some handle for people to grab onto.
Yep.
And if you don't have that, you just get lost in the noise of the personal branding world.
Is this some of the things that you learned during the BiggerPockets journey? Because obviously that, as you said, it blew up and got sold. And I'm curious what you learned during that journey that has now like parlayed into what you're doing with Beardy Brandon.
Yeah, a lot of it was people we interviewed. You know, we interviewed. You know, when you have a big podcast, you can pretty much get almost anybody you want. So we had a lot of big people. For example, we had Grant Cardone a couple times, and Grant Cardone. It was even before he was as big as he is today. But Grant, I saw what Grant was doing. It really changed my life. Like fundamentally changed the direction of my life because I saw what he was doing, and that was he was taking a personal brand, using it to raise private capital from just normal people, which some laws had changed back around then to allow that to happen, and he used that to then leverage up to buy real estate. If he went and raised $10 million from just people in his audience, he could then go buy $25 million of real estate, and then he gets a third of all the profit in the future or whatever the number is. And I was like, after interviewing him for an hour, I was like, that's genius. And I went and just copied him. So I've just copied Grant's model that entire way. And you know, we interviewed all the I don't know, Tim Ferriss and Ryan Holiday and all the guys and ladies in the industry. And I just would like watch what they're doing and try to just say, how do I do that even remotely close to what they're doing?
And what do you think some of those keys are now? Like, where do you put your focus when it comes to building your personal brand?
Yeah, I heard this years ago. I think it was from Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income, years and years ago, probably 20 years ago. He said, I don't know, he said, be the cross point of two niches. Don't try to be one. Earlier, I brought up that I want people to think real estate investing is Brandon Turner. And I said I wouldn't recommend that for newbies or people just trying to build a brand. It's just too broad. It's really hard. So I was real estate in your 20s. And all of a sudden, how many guys are out there teaching real estate to people in their 20s? Nobody was. Like, nobody owned that niche. And so I lean really hard into that. In fact, my most successful, I guess you could call it, like, program right now, which is First Deal, it's very, very, very niche. It's we will help you buy your first rental property, not your second, not your 10th. We're not going to help you scale up. We do one little thing. We help you buy your first property. And because of that, it sells really well, and we hit product market fit really fast, and we've got it. It just runs. But when I try to be too general, which my mid-tier group is a lot more general, it's like, we'll just help you build wealth. Really hard to sell that thing because it's not specific. I would have been way better off if I would have said, I'm going to teach you how to buy a mobile home park. That actually would be more successful because, again, the smaller niches help. So I don't know, I took that from a lot of those guys, learning what they were doing, getting real specific. But it's like you see Hormozy or Dan Martell and you think, oh, I got to go big like that and just be business. Just rarely works for the new guys.
When you were sharing the different types of businesses, there was one line in there that I picked up on and I want to explore. And you said you had a $50,000 program that you just shut down.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that, because that seems insane, because you had it's $50,000 to get in. You had a lot of people in it.
Yeah. I had like close to 40, 50 people, something like that at the end.
Dude, that's a big business, and you shut it down.
Just shut it down entirely.
So what was it, and why did you shut it down?
Because revenue is not profit, right? It's like it made a lot of revenue. It made first year, a couple $1 million. We launched, within like the first 6 months, we had 30 people. So it was like financially really awesome. We even called it, and this goes back to like trying to find my niche. I called it the 50. So the 50. And it was because every mastermind in the world says, like every big mastermind I've ever been a part of, that's really big. Everyone always says the same thing. Oh, remember when it was like small, how great it was when there was like 50 people in the room? And then it got to 200 and 500 and 1,000. And there's value to the big masterminds, but they're always really good when they're small. I said, hey, what if I just made a mastermind that was designed to be small and we never go over 50 people? So we call it the 50. And I thought in my head, I'll have 50 guys at 50,000. They'll give me 2.5 million a year. And I'll spend, let's call it $1.5 million on expenses. And I'll clear $1 million a year just for myself. And that was the plan. Like I just booked a UTV trip in the Grand Canyon, I think it is, or Bryce Canyon. Just booked it, and I got like 30 spots for this like UTV trip. It's gonna be all real estate guys, or guys, gals. It'll be open, all millionaires. I'll sell that thing pretty quickly, and I'll probably make more money on that one trip than I made the entire 2 years of running that $50,000 mastermind.
Wow,
no overhead. Just like another third-party company will run the whole thing for me. So anyway, I just overcomplicated it. I thought I needed to really over-deliver. Maybe I did. The other mistake is the guy I had running it, amazing dude, one of my best friends. Love him. His name is Matt. But he's not a business owner. He's a sommelier, and he's an event guy, and he's a private chef. He's the experience guy. So I took an experienced guy, and I said, hey, run this company. But as anyone who's read like the E-Myth would know, like just because you can bake a cake doesn't mean you should open a bakery. So his strength is not doing the financials and knowing where the budget's going to come in and setting goals and reverse engineering them down to quarterly targets and weekly measures. And that's not his thing. So the events, world class, unbelievable. And then the business was just rough.
I'm sure, because you said a line there that's really important for everybody, just to reiterate, and we all know it. But revenue does not equal profits.
Yeah. It just be nuts if people are like, oh yeah, I did 100 million last year. And I'm like, did you? I mean, I did 106. I ran some very loose math the other day. I was like, I did 168 million last year. $168 million last year. Do you know how much of that was profit? 0. Because that was all rents on apartment complexes that I own. I just took all 14,000 units I have and figured we're about $1,000 per unit over 12 months. So like, it's a stupid metric. It means nothing. Like I made $168 million. No, I didn't. I made $0 because I'm on that business model of what I do in real estate. I'm the last to get paid out of 3,000 people that are investors. And like everyone makes money before I do. So revenue and profit are very different things. And when people just talk about revenue numbers, I would just roll my eyes. It's like, even having doors, I just said I have 14,000 doors or units across the country. I make no money from that at all. Someday I will. I make no money for that. So even a guy who has a duplex that owns one duplex, he lives in half of it, he rents the other half out, he makes more cash flow off real estate than I do off 14,000 units.
Okay, I know there's somebody watching and listening that's like, why do it then, dude?
Yeah.
Like, why spend the time, energy, and effort, if you're not making any money with it?
Yeah, here's what was my plan. I've since scaled it back. If I could buy, let's call it $5 billion worth of real estate. Again, sounds crazy, but if I can raise the money, which I could write about $1 billion now. So if I could go 5, over time, that 5 billion turns into 8 billion, just because real estate tends to go up over time. So it might take 10 years. Okay, if it goes from 5 to 8, we just made $3 billion. My investors get 2 billion of that. They get about roughly 2/3. That means I'm left with $1 billion. So the reason I play that game is because it could legit make me a billionaire. Now I've since scaled back my ambitions pretty significantly, having kids and wanting to spend a lot more time with them. And it's just a challenging market too. I don't need to be a billionaire, but that was the game. That is the game. Is you it's all for the end.
And it's a much longer.
It's a much longer. Yeah, it's a 10, 15-year play. And there's cash flow on the way, but investors typically get that. Like my partners that bring the money, they get all the money along the way. I just get paid at the very end if everything works well.
And so the other businesses, that's what helps produce the income for you.
So I need to pay my bills, obviously.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I still get book royalties. I wrote some books that still sell really well. And so I get a decent amount. I mean, call it 100K right now a year off book royalties. At one point it was much higher than that when I was at BiggerPockets, but it's enough to it's a good chunk of money. But then I still need more money. And then I'm also an investor in my deals. So I get some cash flow off that just from money I put in, but I still need more money. I live in Hawaii. I've got several houses. I've got a lot of fancy stuff. I need cash. So I'm going to launch programs, business, that kind of stuff to do it. So I love education. I love teaching. That's my favorite thing in the world. Like if, the age old question, if you had like $1 billion today, what would you do? I'd wake up and teach real estate investing online. I'd make YouTube videos about it. I'd make social media videos. I just do exactly that because I love it. And I think that's like the best business to be in, as one that you absolutely just would love to do anyway. So I build those, and hopefully they make enough money to pay bills and hopefully rescue some of the real estate deals if they don't go well.
What do you think about when it comes to risk?
Ooh, yeah. I am a risky person. I mean, I do these big things. And and buy a lot of big real estate and have a lot of debt. I mean, I'm probably $700 million in debt right now, something like that. I think that risk is like alcohol in that it can make a party a lot more fun and it could also just completely destroy your life. And so as I get older, I want to de-risk things in my life. The reason I like real estate specifically is even though it's a risky bet, it's because I understand it so well. And so you can reduce risk by understanding things. Now, the reason I like businesses like my first deal program is because there's way less risk in that. I mean, I suppose somebody could sue me and buy a deal and then, get mad and sue me. It could happen. There's not no risk in it, but there's probably a lot less risk. But then risk, it's all about managing it. Like when you're thinking through let's say buying an apartment complex, okay, what could go wrong? Well, the economy could crash. Okay, so what do you do about that? Or you get sued. Okay, what do you do about that? And there's answers for every single thing in there. What's risky is not knowing your business and then trying to build a big business without knowing it. So I scaled up fast, but I mean, this is a 20-year scale. This isn't like a 2-year thing.
Where does your head go when a plan doesn't go according to plan? So real estate, like you said, markets could turn.
Yeah.
And if that happens,
it's happening right now in Texas. Yeah.
So where does your head go in terms of like managing that risk?
Yeah, good question. Some part of it goes to Jocko Willink's extreme ownership. So I'm a big believer in this, is like when things get hard to like really lean in, especially with my people who have invested money, like friends, family. I mean, thousands of people have given me money. And then when deals start going like bad, for example, we got an apartment complex in Texas. Texas rents are down 30% in some areas of Austin, which is where we bought. So when rents are down 30%, it just takes all the profit from the property and it's gone. And so this is happening to hundreds of people in my industry, maybe thousands of people who do what I do. And it's just destroying them. And I hear story after story after story of people saying, oh yeah, I invested with that guy. Things started going bad, or the cash stopped flowing and the guy disappeared. Haven't heard from him in 6 months. And I've invested with other people, even friends of mine. And when things started going bad, I get one email with one sentence, everything's fine, and it's like people can't handle, this is what I've noticed, is at least in the real estate space, and I would guess it's just the influence for space in general, we build this ego around us of like, we're a big deal. We got a podcast, right? We got a YouTube video. People know who I am. I get recognized at Disneyland. And all of a sudden, when this ego of like, I'm so great starts crumbling a little bit, most of those guys can't handle it. And all they can do is disappear and they're just gone. And I don't know where they are. Some of them I've heard moved over to Europe and they're just gone. They cannot handle the dissonance. Is that the right word? Of I believe I'm a rock star and I'm actually not. And so they disappear. And it's very, very common. So I've been, not to pat myself on the back, but I've been trying to do the opposite. Like I've sent more emails, and I moved to Texas for the last 6 months. I've been in Texas because that's where the properties are. And I'm like, well, let's say if things are hard, would you want the guy in charge there? Even if he can't do anything, what am I going to do at an apartment complex? I'm just walking around, But just being there is better than me sitting in Hawaii. And so I moved my family to Texas just to be there. So anyway, leaning in on that stuff has been really, really helpful. And I think anytime in business you're having a hard time, especially if you have employees, if you got team members and it's just a hard season, most CEOs tend to just disappear and get quiet. And and it's like, that's when you have to lean in with your team and lean in with your customers and lean in with everyone.
And there's a massive, massive level of respect that comes when a person takes personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And, in the same way that you're describing, those people that have avoided the responsibility, taken off to Europe or whatever, it's like in an instant.
Yeah, they're pissed. They'll never invest with them again.
Yeah. And all that respect is gone.
Yep.
I remember a moment when I was business partners with Michael Hyatt. There was a moment when something didn't go according to plan. And he asked me about it. And I immediately took responsibility. I'm like, that's on me. I own that. I'll fix it. And what was interesting was his reaction, because he just paused for a moment and he said, I knew that you had done that, but I was more interested to see how you'd handle this situation. And it was like a moment that taught me how important taking personal responsibility is, because we're all going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And the person who takes responsibility for the mistake immediately diffuses the situation.
Yep.
Because if you don't take responsibility, the other person knows you made this, and it creates this higher and higher level of conflict. But the moment you take responsibility, it diffuses the conflict, and it's like, okay, now let's solve the problem.
Yeah. There's a phrase I use all the time when things go wrong, is that, especially in real estate. Like I don't want to claim that I caused the meltdown of the economy in Austin, Texas, right? Like it just sucks. Like I couldn't control it. But it's still like, if I just say, hey, if I went to my investors and was like, hey, it's not my fault. I I didn't do this. It's not my fault. It's the market. How would people react? They'd be like, screw you. Like that's such a terrible attitude. So then I always say this phrase, this sucks, I'm sorry. I say that all the time. This sucks, I'm sorry. Because like, it's true. I'm acknowledging this really sucks. I'm in it, you're in it. This really sucks. And I'm sorry we're here. I'm sorry that I chose to buy this property. I'm sorry that that this situation is what it is. I'm not saying I'm causing it, because that's just going to bring up lawsuits if I was like, yeah, I led to this, property falling apart or whatever the thing is. But acknowledging the crappy situation makes such a big difference. In fact, I actually learned that from a kid's book. Have you read that book? Oh, now I'm going to forget the title. It's How to Talk So Little Kids Will Listen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that book.
Yeah.
She makes a point in that book where she says, when you're talking with a little kid and they're upset about something, their toy broke or, whatever, and it's such a big deal to them. And if you're like, hey, it's not a big deal, grow up, act like that, never solves anything. They said, what if your friend did that? Your friend came to me and was like, oh, my boss at work today was being really hard on me, and I'm just so irritated with my boss. And if you're like, hey, calm down, it's not a big deal, you just make the other person hate you. But instead, when you go, hey, yeah, that sucks. That really sucks. I'm so sorry that's happening. Little kids and grown-ups will all go, yeah, that does suck.
They feel seen.
And then they can rise together out of that feeling. And
well, you've now shifted your energy to thinking through how can we help resolve this.
Yeah.
And I think that that's another incredible trait of entrepreneurs, is instead of throwing the hands up and giving up, you're like, okay, what now? How can we figure this out?
Yeah. There's one apartment complex I have in Texas that it's half what we bought it for. I think we bought it for $87 million. It's worth maybe 40. That's a big hole to climb out of. Like, I'm just going to lose everyone's money on the deal. If we got 3 years, I got 3 years left to get, if I can't get this loan refinanced, this gets into the weeds a little bit, but there is a path forward. But I'm going to need probably $20 million in cash in the next 3 years. And so, everyone would be like, well, okay, the deal's done. It's dead. You can't survive. And I'm like, no. Like, it's like in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the famous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Kiyosaki talks about how the rich or the poor say, I can't afford it. And the rich ask, how do I afford it? And that little mental shift of how, it's like the most powerful word in the English language. How. So it's like, how would I come up with $20 million? And I thought, well, I'd have to build a company worth 50 and I'd sell 50% of it. And I'm like, what if I built this first deal company to 50? What would it have to be worth $50 million? And you just reverse engineer. Okay, to be worth $50 million, we would have to be doing probably $10 million a year in EBITDA. Like, that maybe even worth more at that point. But let's just say we were doing $10 million a year in EBITDA. Okay, well, what I have to get in gross then? Probably $25 million based on our margins. Okay, I got to do $25 million a year. Well, we're charging roughly 10 grand a piece. So how many sales is that? And you just reverse engineer it and then go down to the month. And it's like, oh, I don't remember the exact math, but it's like 200 a month. We're doing like 75 a month right now, give or take. So I'm like, well, can't we get to 200 a month in the next 3 years and then sell a company? And here's what's fascinating about this idea. One, I realized, oh, this is not going to be that impossible. Like, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not impossible to grow a little bit over the next 3 years. But mostly it's been fun is like, this is my moment of like a football game when you're down to 1 minute left and you're down by 6 points and you got the ball. Like, it's the best football game ever. Or when you're playing Monopoly and you're down to your final $100, there's no more hidden money like under your butt. You didn't hide any anywhere. Like, you really are, that's when you play your best game of Monopoly. Again, many people just choose to run off to Europe. But it's like, this has been the most fun to build this business that I've had in probably since I started building BiggerPockets 15 years ago. It's been the most fun because I've got a reason. Like, I'm back.
There's a fire.
The fire. I'm hungry again. I'm like, I miss being hungry. Like, I really missed being hungry like I was when I was broke and I had to make BiggerPockets work because I was completely broke.
And I find too, I get most creative when I'm most desperate.
Yes. Yeah.
And so
Yep.
ideas that would never come because you're asking that how question, you're turning your brain on, and all of a sudden you start seeing things that you weren't seeing before, and you start seeing opportunities, and you've, backed up, from the goal to like the day to day, and now it starts becoming a thing.
Yeah. That should be a lesson for everybody too, who's just trying to get started building some kind of online brand or any business of any kind, is like, people tend to look at all their reasons, all their problems, all their limitations, and they say, oh, I don't have money. I don't have an audience yet. I don't have here's all the things that are hard right now. And like Jocko would say, good, you don't have an audience. You're going to be hungrier than everybody else. Like, when a newbie comes to me and wants to get in real estate, especially when they're young, they always say things like, oh, nobody will take me seriously. I'm only 25. I'm like, oh no, that's your greatest asset. Like when you're young and hungry, like you don't got kids at home, you got time, like lean into what works. There's a line in Jay Papasan and Gary Keller's book, The One Thing, who I know you have had Jay on the show, where Jay said in the book, when you argue for your limitations, you win every time. That book, The One Thing, is one of my favorite books of all time. I've read that so many times.
As well.
But that line, is when you argue for your limitations, you win every time. So if you just keep saying, well, I don't have an audience, or I don't have any money, or I don't have this, I don't have that. You're right. Yep. So you might as well just quit. Or you can say, you know what? Yeah, I don't have any of those things. Good. I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to go in. I'm going to win anyway. And I'm going to play like I'm down by 6 points and there's a minute left in the game.
I love it, dude. For you moving forward, obviously that is a big focus.
Yeah.
What opportunities do you see that have surfaced now that weren't, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago?
Yeah, a couple thoughts. I'll go positive, I'll go a little bit negative here. On the positive side, I think some new things, like the way that ManyChat is working right now is just it's so fun. Like I feel like that's such a fascinating business tool that's just blowing up people who know how to use it right.
Especially when you think about the cost of leads.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Like, what?
Because it's getting expensive to do Facebook ads. Like ad costs just keep going up more and more and more. But if I can get good at social media and I can put a post out there that does really well, I get 500 leads in my DMs right then. In fact, the first time I ever heard about ManyChat was 2 years ago at this event.
Oh, see,
so this is a game changer. That's when I first heard about it, and I've been working with it ever since, and it's been super fun. But what I like to do, my key strategy with this, is I just look for other people in other industries. Typically, nobody in my niche is really using ManyChat much, but I look for other industries, and usually it's like personal branding or online marketing or whatever. And I just look at what they are doing, and I just rip off and duplicate, right? R&D. And so there'll be somebody going, for example, I'll see a video that the person has maybe 500,000 followers, but then they have a post that gets, call it 2,000 likes, but then there's 5,000 comments on it. And I'm like, whoa, like they got 5,000 leads from that. What'd they do? And I just watch the video, and it's usually a really good hook. And then the hook leads to a really actual valuable piece of content. And at the end, there's some gap or a hole that didn't get filled. Like, for example, let me just send you a free report with 100 hooks that you can use for your next social media video. And I'm like, oh, that's really good. How do I translate that to real estate? So then I'll start with the end in mind. What's the product I could give away? How about a spreadsheet with 1,000 US cities showing the rent, the average rent in each of those cities? Would that be valuable to a real estate investor? I don't actually know, but let's just say it was, right? We can test it, which is getting great. Then I would say, well, what can I teach that's going to lead to that hole, that's going to make them go, well, I need that. And then, okay, what is the hook that I'm going to be able to do to get them to watch the video? And I put out there, and shocking, it works most of the time. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so I've been doing a lot of that. I have on Instagram specifically is my favorite channel. I have bookmarks. You can do different bookmark categories. So I have a whole bookmark thing called like memes to mimic, and another one called post to mimic, and another one called like great hooks. And I just, every time I'm scrolling Instagram, which is way too much, and I see something that catches my eye, I just put it in one of those folders, and then I just go in later and I just recreate it for my own niche. And that has been great.
It has been a game changer from a lead generation standpoint, and the cost of those leads, it's incredible. And how amazing a time that we live in to be able to leverage those tools. You talked about that's the positive.
Yeah.
What's the other side?
My worry is that when AI makes so much flop that's out there, lead magnets are becoming less and less valuable because anybody can make them. And so I think that we're going to a world where we got to think smarter than just like, here's an ebook on how to do whatever. Like, I feel like nobody's going to care about that. Information is so democratized that it's just out there. Nobody needs a PDF on how to use ManyChat or how to buy a rental property, because they can just go to ChatGPT and say, how do I buy a rental property? And everyone knows how to do that at this point. We have to think smarter on what is it that's actually going to benefit them that they can take and then use right away, that they can't just go to ChatGPT for. I worry long term for just the industry of influencers when AI video gets so good. Like, I mean, I've met you and you've met me now, so we know we're real, but I've never met Alex Hormozi. Do I know he's real? I don't know. I mean, I know people who know him, so I'm going to say yes, but 3 years from now, we're going to be talking about online influencers and we're going to be like, yeah, I actually don't know if that's a real guy or not. What a wild time to be alive.
It is a wild time for sure.
What are you teaching your kids right now? How many kids do you have?
2 kids.
What are you teaching your kids like to prepare for this world that's so unknown, that it's more unknown than we've ever experienced?
Yeah, we watch content together. And I think more than anything, I think it's important to have discussions with the kids.
Yeah.
I find it hard to, tell them, do this or do that, because I know human behavior is, if you tell me I can't have a cookie, the thing that I'm going to get is the cookie, And so I think it's more about like having the discussions with them and helping them just think, about how to navigate certain situations. I look at my son and my daughter, who have both found passions and interests that I don't think they would have ever discovered had it not been for YouTube.
Yeah.
And like Sam, he loves to cook, and he'll watch a video on YouTube, and then next he's like, hey mom, I need to order this from Instacart. And then they get items delivered, and then they're making thing of the night. And I love that magic, So I do think more than anything, it's the conversations. What about you?
I don't know. It's hard, man. I mean, I love the conversation. I have a 5-year-old. I have a 5-year-old, 9-year-old, and a baby. But the 5-year-old and I have been playing with ChatGPT like software stuff. 5 years old, and he made a Flappy Birds type game, and like we just built the whole thing in like an hour. But it like kept his attention for an hour. A 5-year-old figuring out how to build an actual game. And we made a couple different games now, so it's fun to like lean into that with him.
Yeah,
because given a choice, like. My daughter, who's 9, like she has free time. She'll play video games for a little bit. Then she wants to go out and play dolls or Barbies or whatever. But my son will get sucked into 18 hours of Minecraft if he could a day. He would just play Minecraft or All Out or Among Us all day long. And so I'm trying to rein that in, because I know he's got the same tendency that I do, which is I could just scroll Instagram all day if left to my own devices. And so like, how do we develop that muscle of self-control in them? I don't have a great answer for it, other than just the same thing you said, constant conversation and talking about it. If you have parents that are involved in conversation about the rapidly changing world that we have, I think our kids are going to be just fine. They're going to figure it out.
And so to your point, we just got to be involved, and we may not have all the answers, but we're surfing this wave with them.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Well, dude, thank you so much.
Thank you.
As we wrap up, what final thoughts do you have for everybody when it comes to growing a personal brand and growing a business?
I would say this, don't do what I'm doing right now. Don't do what Hormozi is doing and what a lot of people do. And what I mean by that is, I once heard, I think it was James Wedmore, 15 years ago, we told a story about building a bridge from one island to another. And he said the mistake people make is they build the bridge and they get bored and they start building a second bridge and then a third bridge and a fourth bridge. And pretty soon they got 10 bridges and they're each moving by a couple inches each year, but the bridges never reach that other island. And this idea of like, if you're trying to get to financial freedom or wealth, or you quit your job, whatever the thing is, you have this goal. When you build a lot of bridges, it just takes a lot longer to get there. And so the reason when I try to preface this or say this on podcasts, when I talk about all the businesses that I run, I think I have like 12 businesses plus all the properties and all the stuff, that I was financially free and rich before I did that. That comes afterwards. Like the whole quote about the average millionaire has 7 income streams. After they become a millionaire. It's not, they didn't do 7 different things scatterbrained for the course of a time to get there. Almost everybody rich that I know did like really like one thing, and they just got really good at that one thing, and they did that until they had success, and then they could add lanes to the bridge, or they could hire people to build bridges for them. But just be careful about listening to a guy like me who does a lot of different things and goes super broad and like, oh, I'm going to do that too, because it just doesn't work. Go real niche, real small, serve a very small number of people with a very, very value-filled offer of some kind, whether it's free or paid, and actually help those people. And then you can expand from there.
Dude, thank you so much. Where can people go to connect?
Instagram, Beardy Brandon, Beard with a Y.
Love it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was Brandon Turner. It doesn't matter how big you get, the fundamentals never change. Build your brand, serve your people, and when things get hard, lean in. If this helped you, hit subscribe. We got amazing episodes every week. Now, if you want to follow Brandon's journey, I put together a free resource kit with his info, today's show notes, and a guide to building a personal brand that creates leverage. Just scan the QR code or grab the link in the description. Now, next week, we got Bonnie Christine. She's a surface pattern designer who built a multi-million-dollar business teaching creatives how to turn their art into income. We're talking about the 12-week runway that fills her course every year and what happened when she bet $42,000 on a trade show booth. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you next week.